Heidi and Stefan.
Yes, and you're listening to another episode of Ice Cream Parlor, the podcast.
If you don't know, we're a podcast where we talk about horror movies eventually.
Eventually, yeah. We like to start off with a little
check-in.
Yeah, how you been?
I mean, pretty good. I have deemed this outfit my podcasting outfit because it is so fucking hot right now.
Right, you just need to stick with whatever
and so this shirt is, if you look at it, it's like almost see-through, but it used to be dark and opaque. It used to be black, and it used to have ghosts on it, and now it's like see-through, and there's holes in it. But you know what? It keeps me nice and cool. Yeah. And the last couple of episodes, I've worn this exact outfit, and I've just felt so much better because, yeah, we're in an apartment, and we have like portable air conditioning units, but they're like on opposite ends of the apartment, and there isn't like a cool vortex in the middle where it's cold. Like we're like in a hot spot. Yeah. So
do you think that a lot of other people on podcasts think ahead of time? Like, I know probably women, you have to get your face and makeup and all that together, but like as far as outfits, do you think like, I don't know. I wonder, with so many podcasts and people jumping from one to another, sometimes it's just wake up and wear whatever, right?
I mean, I think, and I'm not speaking for all women, of course, but I think a woman would be more inclined to take notice of her appearance because society has made us, oh, look at that. And as we speak, my skeleton hand hair clip came out. Society has, kind of groomed us to take notice of what we look like, and I'm pretty like nonchalant, and I don't really try that hard, I guess. Yeah. I'm not really like, oh, I'm so glam, but I do at least try to always be presentable and clean. And it just feels good because I've spent my life in as corporate, right? Mm-hmm. And so I always have to kind of put myself together every day, and so it kind of gives me a sense of normalcy. Yeah,
my thing is just making sure that I put on a clean shirt. I guess I used to wear a lot of shirts with patterns on it and everything, but
I mean, you bathe regularly, right?
Yeah, of course. But like, I think nowadays I'm just more muted. Like, I don't have any logos on my hat or my shirt, whatever. It's just pretty plain colors these days. I used to be a little bit more like into patterns and big designs and stuff like that back in the the late 90s, early 2000s when everything was eccentric.
I mean, I think people qualify. I think I qualify as eccentric. I don't know.
Still, yeah, you're wearing a lock and a key on one ear and the other.
This hair clip isn't working for me. Whatever. I'll go nice and messy. The thing is, I didn't wash my hair this morning, so it's got like this lion's mane thing going on. Whatever, I'm gonna rock it.
I don't think people notice that much, but
yeah, that's okay. I love you, audio only listeners.
It's all in your head. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people like just depending on the podcast, some are very like, produced and whatever. But I think now, especially in the quarantine times, people are just like, fuck it, throw something on and go for it,
Yeah, I kind of miss the days where you're forced to like get dressed and go out. Like I miss date nights. I miss, movie nights. I miss, going to movies in the park specifically because that was like such a big thing for us as a family.
I don't think I've ever seen, like, as long as I've known you, you've never gone to a movie in the park.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Nope.
Really?
Correct.
Which movie did you go to?
I recently took the girls and Xander.
The girls? What girls? How many girls do you have? You have twins?
My daughter.
You have twins? Wait, what are you? I didn't know this.
My daughter has best friends who are a set of twins, and they don't have a mother. And they call me their other mother.
Okay. So what movie did you guys see? Do you remember?
You? I don't remember because it would have been last summer because they're usually like in the summer. So I don't remember, but I mean, that's since we've known you.
Okay. Well, I guess I didn't realize that you were
not attached at the hip.
No, I didn't realize that you were going to a movie is on the lawn or whatever it was. But that's cool. That's cool. I wonder if the drive-in movie theater thing will kind of like come back into
I think it already
Popularity.
is, like Beyond Fest, which is one of those event nights that we would go to also.
Beyond Fest?
Yeah, Beyond Fest is kind of like a cinematic void kind of event.
Okay.
They do drive-ins now. And then I booked us reservations on like movie in the park kind of event, but like in small little paddle boats or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So wait, you're in a boat, you're watching a movie?
Yeah, kind of like one of those inflatable kind of screens, whatever. I don't know. But Leon Curtis, a few years ago, introduced us to a movie in the park because she was in Pretty in Pink, and she was the guest star, and her daughter was playing, so she asked us to go to show support. We went, we saw a movie in the park, and we were hooked. Like, it was our thing. We got season passes every summer.
What kind of screen is it on? Is it just like a wall, or
yeah,
do they
it's
have
like a big, huge, like inflatable wall.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
It's huge, and they would have lunch trucks, like not lunch truck, food trucks line up, and so you'd watch the movie, you'd be able to go get food. You could bring your own food. The only rule is like no high chairs. You know, it's just like those regular, kind of like my meditation pillow, like
gotcha.
height.
Yeah. Sounds fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd probably want to go there and like blaze up. So I don't know if all the little kids around.
Yeah, there are some that like you know what? Actually, they're hosting events now. It's called Street Food Cinema, and they're hosting events now, but they're not movies that we would be able to make or that we'd be interested in. The kids specifically don't like E.T., so we're not going to go watch E.T., for example. Right. And then other ones were during the times that we were camping. So
gotcha. These are like kid-friendly movies and
a lot
like
of them
family-friendly things? Or?
They're family-related, like so you can take your kids and go and watch the movie, and some of them are not. I mean, I've seen everything like from the Rocky Horror Picture Show to, the Sandlot to Hocus Pocus with the kids there. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Interesting. All right. Well, yeah. It might be fun. I don't know about on a boat eventually.
I don't know about the boat thing.
Fall asleep and then fall into the water or something
like that. But
you'll be awake.
But I'm excited for, especially in like Southern California, it's warm enough so that you can do movies in the park well into maybe like late September. So maybe they'll have more events.
Yeah. Other than that, what's the, what are you looking forward to being able to do once we're able to do things in a really like normal way again?
I miss the beach so hard.
Yeah. But we can go to the beach in some ways now, can't we? Like some beaches are open and we could stay.
Yeah, but it's a little bit different because, it just feels, it's a different feel to it. It's less about whether we can and whether we should. You know what I mean? Like, we're an LA family. My kids are West Side kids. So it was...
West Side?
No, West Side. Like, every summer we'd get considerably darker because we would literally go to the beach at 9 a.m. and come back home like at 4. Like, we'd spend the whole day at the beach. And, we can't do that right now. So I miss the beach. I miss going into the ocean specifically. I don't know, and then being able to do things like... I never wanted to... Oh, my rock climbing gym is closed, and now I have these nice little double waves going on, which is why I'm also very happy for this shirt.
Okay.
But rock climbing would be really nice. Having the gyms open without having to be worried about it would be really nice.
Yeah, I think the gym thing, for some people right now, they're realizing the gym is really... Well, and it's part of the reason why, it's part of the motivation, it's part of what keeps them able to do it. Because technically, you don't need a gym, and if you mentally know that, then you really can kind of work out anywhere and use whatever around you to really stay in shape. But going to the gym, the act of getting in your car, going over there, changing into the clothes, and using their facility, I think is a big motivator for some people.
Well, absolutely. So when I had an Equinox gym membership, I loved going there because of the sauna. So I'd get in a hard workout. I'd do my 4 miles. I'd do a quick workout. 2 hours later, I'm in the sauna for 10 minutes because, I have high blood pressure. So I can't stay in there too long. But, and then I, just cleanse and just shower the sin away and, Right. But I do miss that. That said, I wouldn't go back to Equinox. And I don't
or
think
Equinox specifically?
Equinox specifically.
Yeah.
And
wasn't that through like your old job or something?
Yeah, and it's really expensive.
That wasn't your gym of choice, was it?
It wasn't my gym of choice. I only went because it was, it was my job paid for it. It's like a $260 a month membership. But even if it was affordable for me, I wouldn't go back to it. Just politically, it's not something I'm aligned with. That said, I don't think I'd go with any other gym either, except for my rock climbing gym. I've been a member of Hangar 18 for like 4 years and haven't been able to go for such a long time.
Yeah, I think the gyms in general seem to be a very open breeding ground for a lot of, transfer of bacteria and things like, even though people are supposed to be clean and shower and wipe things down, Okay,
so check this out. Before the world closed, I was at the gym. And I would go to the gym 4 times a week. And when COVID was becoming a thing and things were slowly getting a little bit more cautious, I was on the treadmill and there was a guy, not the next treadmill, but the following one, you leave the extra one in
right.
treadmill etiquette. And then he was just coughing and like a wet cough. And I'm like,
oh, gross.
I don't want to, yes, I'm at 4, close enough to 4 miles,
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd want to go back to him. Like, again, rock climbing, totally different set of rules, totally different type of discipline to be able to, be a rock climber. So like, it's very easy to say, okay, sanitize your hands before you do this. However, you do sweat, you do wipe off your sweat, you do grab onto the pegs, things like that. So it would have to be like some kind of something. I don't know. Can you build me one?
Some kind of something.
Build you what? A rock climbing gym.
I mean, no.
Like, I'll fucking get you a ladder.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to start.
But the going into the ocean, socializing, and the rock climbing is what I miss the most. That said, you can rock climb outside, but they don't have pads in the wilderness.
Yeah. I think so. A lot, again, if you really, I guess, look at it, some of those things in one way or another you can socialize with people, not face to face, but through Zoom and through other means, whatever. You can do workouts in your house or whatever. But I think the one thing that would be fun to do again, and I don't know where I would go, would be traveling. And I know you can still sort of travel now, but like not really. You can't go all over the world. You can
travel within the continental United States.
Yeah, well, right. But even still, like I think traveling, even just the experience of the travel, like I've been on some international flights before and leaving the country and going and doing the whole experience that way. It's fun. And I think that right now, with the way everything is in the world, that's one of the things they've taken away the most, and that feels really weird. It's almost like if you wanted to try to go somewhere else right now, just like for fun, you're going to have to go through all these, hoops and hurdles, just to get there or to, I don't know. It's just strange times. So yeah, that's what I feel like it might be nice to travel again.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but I have a friend, Callie, she was suddenly in Tampa. Like she went from like Colombia to Chicago to having to quarantine and stay during the pandemic closures in Tampa. And then she came to California because she had her stuff in my storage and the whole moving things happened. But she got on a $20 flight from Florida to Los Angeles and was like, let's hang out. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh my God, no. Like, first of all, you're in Florida. Second of all, you've been on an airplane with all these people that God knows,
I was, the whole time since COVID has hit, I kept thinking like, because the airplanes, we live, near an airport, we hear the airplanes going constantly. And I was like, if the whole 6-foot rule applies, then are they seating people like every other seat?
I guess they would have to do, mathematically, I imagine it would be every other middle row. You know what I mean? Or maybe stagger in like middle aisle window, whatever the hell.
We saw some sort of video on, well, you were flipping through your feed today, and it was like some lady getting kicked off an airplane.
And it seemed packed,
yeah,
right?
it did not look like they were.
What they do is, I think in LAX, they were installing like these, kind of like a metal detector kind of thing that checks your temperature. So all they're doing is, you need a mask, you need to check your temperature. If you have a fever, you can't get on. I think that's what it is.
I think that's not the very accurate thing to do. I mean, what if, for example, somebody has a high temperature, doesn't have COVID, it's just they have high blood pressure or something, the anxiety of flying or whatever gets their temperature up. You know, there's a lot of reasons why your temperature would go up, not just because you were sick. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can have an ear infection.
Yeah, it's just.
But here's the thing. Also, it takes 2 weeks for you to get your test results or get symptoms. I mean, right?
Supposedly, if you're not rich, yeah.
No, not your test. Symptoms.
Oh, symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
So,
I don't know.
it's like, I'm not comparing the pandemic to AIDS, but as a teenager, I was part of this thing called PEP LA, where we would go and teach highlight and, provide awareness for AIDS and HIV as teens to other teens. Anyway, there's a 6-month window. It's like you can be exposed to HIV or AIDS on day 1, but not until month 6. Yeah. Or is it 6 weeks? I don't remember. I'm old.
Yeah, I think that always...
that there's that window period where you can possibly still have it, not even know.
No, yeah.
Expose all these other people. So I'm thinking along those lines when people say, oh, I'm testing. I took a test today. I'm taking a test today. In 2 weeks, I'll find out if I am positive. Meanwhile, you're quarantined during that time. But what happens to the people that you possibly exposed the day before your tests? You know what I mean? So there's just a lot of uncertainty. And I don't know, like they're going to have supposedly a vaccine by the end of the year. And do we want to
be the first ones to try it out, you mean?
Try it out? Like, is this the umbrella virus?
Well,
or what is it? What is it?
The umbrella virus. I think that's some
Umbrella
Resident Evil.
Corporation. Yeah. The umbrella
T
virus.
virus.
The T virus. Yeah.
You're going all Resident Evil on us here,
I mean, I always do. Like Michelle Rodriguez was in that movie, and she was Rain, and she was fucking
Was that the
phenomenal.
second one or the first one?
That was the first one.
Really?
Yeah, she was Rain in the first one. And
I didn't like the first one. I just felt like it was, and probably is because I played the game so much and it didn't really follow the game. The biggest thing for me was the game had like this gigantic snake, and you had to he came out where there was like a room with a piano, and you had to fight this gigantic snake, and I was like, where's the snake? And then later on in the game, they had these little snakes that would fall out of the trees and try to get you. And the whole time in that movie, there was nothing about a snake. I was like,
so good, right?
No, I mean, yes, but no, it didn't follow the movie. I mean, sure, I'm not the biggest fan of snakes, but I feel like that if it was in the game, they should have put it in the movie. But most video games to movies don't really transcend well. I like Resident Evil a lot. I didn't play the game because, okay, confession time. When the PlayStation came out, my brother got one, and he got, basics, Crash Bandicoot, Resident Evil, and Tomb Raider, right? Well, I don't think Resident Evil would be considered the basic. I think that's
Tekken.
a little bit
those
later.
Okay, so the basics we had at our house that my brother had. Okay, so those are the 4 that I vividly remember. And I'm telling you, I try to make Lara Croft walk straight. The very first one, the very first level, or is it? I don't remember. And she's like in this cave down in something, and there's a tiger there for some reason, and she has to jump onto like this ledge. And when she jumps on this ledge, she has to go from one to the next one to the next one, climb up the wall and climb up the cave. You with me?
Yeah.
I kept making her walk off the first rock. And then after that, I was like, yeah, maybe I'll just stick to, I have my arcade right behind you. Like, I'll just stick to those because 2D is the world where I exist, right?
Gotcha.
So I watched my brother play. Like, he'd be like my kids, come watch me play, right? So And I have that whole connection with Resident Evil. So when the movie came out, yeah, it's a little, it's not aligned with the game exactly, but it was
in its
still
own
fun.
right. It's a kind of a good movie if it was just like a zombie movie.
Right,
like,
but if you have the nostalgia connection with the game when it first came out, for example, when it came out when we were kids or teenagers, then yeah, you'll feel a little bit let down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was just like elements that weren't in there that I was expecting, but that's also the same for, like I said, almost every video game that went to movie, you know?
Well, so it's kind of the same with...
Like Street Fighter, remember that?
Well, it's kind of the same from like... well, I was going to say, like Avatar The Last Airbender, like I have the collection if you look over there. And then it came, like that show came out, the kids and I watched it, like it's our thing. And then Shyamalan redid it and made it all dark and kids were emotionless creatures, and you're like, what the fuck is this garbage? Now, it wasn't like that. It was more like Street Fighter, because the game was awesome, and then Raul Julia, in one of his final roles, played M. Bison, and it was a weird as fuck movie, but you still appreciated the attempt, and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, but Jean-Claude Van Damme as the white American...
What is it, General Guile?
General Guile. Yeah,
Guile?
Colonel Guile.
Colonel Guile.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, I mean, whatever. At the time, we ate it up as kids, especially Van Damme.
But yeah, but it was Van Damme's time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was Van Damme's time. But you know what was really good? Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, it was. But again,
that one was good. But it also was like you have a white man Raiden, so it's like.
The thing with Goro and Mortal Kombat that I didn't like is that he looks stretched, like compared to the game where he's like more of like a football player build. It was like the body suit they made had like
torsos?
Yeah, it was like too stretched, and they used the same kind of like hands, the little 3 fingers that they used for the Ninja Turtles in the 90s Ninja Turtle movie.
Right. So I mean, I also was hoping for Shiva in the first one, but.
Well, she wasn't in the first video game, so...
That's okay, but I was still hoping for Shiva in the first one.
Yeah, but at that time, we didn't even know who Shiva was. Like, she didn't even come to the storyline until Mortal Kombat 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh, you're right, because it's not on the one that we have here.
Right.
Anyway.
So, that's all I'm saying. Like,
anyway, I still really enjoyed it. I didn't like that in Mortal Kombat 1 versus Mortal Kombat 2. They, like, changed Sonya's. That broke my heart, because I really liked the girl the first from Billy
Madison.
Yeah, the one from the first one who looks like she's always smelling something bad.
Yeah,
you know, I like that one.
She was that was kind of an odd role for her, because again, she doesn't normally play like.
And she's not very muscular in the movie. She's like she kind of looks skinny fat, you know, like not like not jiggly or anything, but like not like defined muscles.
Yeah.
And when she breaks the neck of Kano, and I'm like, that's so satisfying.
Yeah, with the leg kick. Yeah.
No, not the leg kick, the snap.
The scissor kick thing, yeah. She grabs him by the neck, and snaps his neck.
Give me a break. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, video game adaptations to movies don't always follow because most of the time the people that are making the movie aren't really fans of the entity necessarily, so they didn't play the game. They're not following like the storyline to the T or the rule book or whatever. They're just going off of what they think is going to be attractive to a wide spread audience, you know? Right,
which is similar to the movie that we watched for this episode, Re-Animator. Now, Re-Animator is from 1985, and it is based on the H.P. Lovecraft story. H.P. Lovecraft story. Shit, what is it?
You forgot the title of it?
Herbert West, Re-Animator.
Okay, yeah. Now, have you seen this movie before we watched it for the podcast?
Yes.
Okay, so you already know. So this one is one of those that came out in the 80s that I didn't really ever... Again, not being a super fan of horror back then, but seeing a lot...
I didn't watch it in the 80s, though. I watched it... I watched it, I don't know, maybe... like 3 years ago.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, be honest with you. The only reason why I know of this movie is because of the Slash Cars game that we play, and it keeps popping up over there. So
shout out to Jenna yet again, who not only has given me espresso for the rest of my life, but also the Slash Cards.
Yeah,
so
which is a really fun game. Maybe we'll play a few rounds. Maybe we should do like a special like live thing. Maybe get some
get some people out there
involved.
to answer some questions.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty
like
cool.
a live question answer with playing slash cards. But so Re-Animator pops up a bunch of times in slash cards, and that's how
because it's a great movie. I think
I get it, but I'm just saying, like, for example, in my head, I've known of Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead or like a lot of these other like movies that were kind of quote unquote.
But this is one of the ones that were like missed until very recently.
Slipped by. Gotcha. I never heard of it. It is very much like a Frankenstein type story, I would say, which is funny because they're reanimating a very old classic theme.
Right. So the H.P. Lovecraft story is along the same lines, but you have to remember these were written a long time ago. The stories were written a long time ago. So H.P. Lovecraft wrote Re-Animator as a short. And then or like a pulp story, like just something that he put out, kind of like like in the New Yorker, let's say, for example, akin to that. But and then they gained popularity, and they're like, well, they're paying me $5 a story, so I'm going to continue. And then he continued series. So that was a completely different era. Like it wasn't like, oh, Frankenstein the way we know it. The story existed, but it was like a completely different take on it. And I feel like it's less about the act of reanimating and more about how far is science willing to go and how many lives will it destroy, versus Frankenstein, the story, I feel is more about does one ever lose their humanity? Does one ever lose your humanity, their spirit, versus Re-Animator, which is, like, I guess it's the same. Of course, it's got similarities, but it's more of the movie specifically for me. It's more of how far are you going to go down this fucking rabbit hole in pursuit of XYZ?
Sure. So I'm going to sound kind of stupid here, but like so first of all, the story of Frankenstein came before these H.P. Lovecraft stories, I'm guessing, correct?
You're going to ask me a question I don't have the answer to. So let's see.
Well, I'm just wondering, do you know, like, so the Frankenstein story was written by what, Mary Shelley or whatever? Now, so she was an author in a time period that had probably come before H.P. Lovecraft, right? Like, because I'm wondering which one was first in history. So there already was a Frankenstein story, and then he wrote his story later on, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely lots of similarities, and I think the Frankenstein story awoke a whole different kind of genre and possibilities of, maybe people from the dead do come back and they reanimate.
Yeah.
Mary Shelley was like, what, the 1700s?
I was going to ask you that.
And Lovecraft was like the early 1900s.
Oh, okay.
I think I saw 1912 or something like that.
So Mary Shelley was like 1700, like really back
like 200 years away.
Gotcha. Was she an American writer? No, right?
I can look it up.
1700s? We weren't even America yet. Stupid. I'm saying I'm stupid. 1776 is when we got, right? So if she was 1700s, if it was, I don't know. You're going to fact check?
No, I'm going to answer your question.
I'm just wondering, like, how, because sometimes I feel like, this was like within
1797.
Okay, so there was an
she was born, and she died in 1851. Place of death, Chester Square.
Chester Square. But she was an American writer, or was she European?
Well, I think she was English because of the fact that it says Chester Square.
Okay, that sounds very English. All right, well.
That sounds very tea and crumpet to me.
So what about H.P. Lovecraft? What do you know about him? I mean, you don't have to look it up. I'm just asking you, what do you know about him generally?
I just know him as, this is where Xander fell in love, my son fell in love with Cthulhu, right?
Okay.
And so it's like a lot of different horror-based short stories.
Gotcha. So he's a short
I've had
story.
this book for a while, but because this is a collection based off of all the short stories that we've read, and it's easier to have one book. But I just know him that. I don't know too much about him, but I can, let's see.
It's fine. Like I said, I was just wondering.
He was an American writer of weird fiction and horror fiction who is known for his creation of what became the Cthulhu mythos. Born in Providence, Rhode Island, Lovecraft spent most of his life in New England. He was born into affluence, but his family's wealth dissipated soon after the death of his grandfather. In 1913, he wrote a critical letter to Pulp magazine that ultimately led to his involvement in Pulp Fiction, not the Tarantino movie.
So he was on like my neck of the woods.
Oh shit! He died due to small intestine cancer in 1937.
Ouch!
And he was buried in Swan Point Cemetery.
I used to be able to ride my bike from my house to the Providence border in Massachusetts when I was a kid. Like, remember last episode I was telling you about the fort in the woods? Mm-hmm. That was in a small town called Swansea, Massachusetts. And so from my house, I could jump on my bike, and I don't know how long it would take, maybe 5-10 minutes up the road. But I could get to the border of where Massachusetts and Rhode Island was. Providence in a car was probably 20 minutes or so, 30-minute drive away, tops. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, Providence is a...
So you should know about him. The fuck are you doing?
I don't know. I spent a lot of time in Florida. I got brainwashed down there.
So what? So Florida is completely different from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
What led to the move?
Well, in a nutshell, it was the leather business, because...
Sayed Leathers.
Yeah, well, it was a few things. So basically, my dad had started his own business. But funny enough, where we were in Massachusetts, and there's where he started the business, was a place where there was a lot of people that were in that trade, that skilled labor, stitching, cutting leather, assembling bags, jackets, all that kind of stuff. So there was lots of people along with himself who were, working for other companies. So when he started his company, our company, whatever, it ended up being something where, he wanted to kind of, because there's another competitor company that he used to work for that was like just, right up the street in a sense from us. And he wanted to kind of separate and not be right, there next to the guy he used to work for, basically. Plus the weather was a big thing, because my dad comes from Bangladesh, which is a very tropical place. And so he was
it's very similar to El Salvador, where it's humid like a mother.
So he wasn't into the whole cold weather and the snow and all that.
I can't imagine he was.
And then Florida, right, an hour away from Orlando where we lived, is Daytona, which is the Daytona 500 for cars, but they also do Bike Week and the motorcycle Daytona AMA races over there. Okay. So for them, that's what it was. It was, let's go away from...
It makes more sense.
...the cold weather, and let's kind of separate the business away from the competitor that was already sort of established in that area.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. But so that's really what it was. And yeah, Florida is a completely different beast than Massachusetts. So yeah, I didn't know that H.P. Lovecraft was...
your neighbor?
Yeah. But you know who else was my neighbor not my personal neighbor, but somebody in that area who is somewhat famous, Lizzie Borden.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like... right there where I lived. I think you can still go to that house, and well, not now, but maybe, it's sort of like a tourist attraction, the Lizzie Borden house.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know that there's a Lizzie Borden, I guess, series on Netflix where Christina Ricci. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I was almost about to call her Lizzie Bourdain. For some reason, I was thinking
that's
Anthony
my other
Bourdain.
Cooking show.
Lizzie Bourdain.
It's funny because my middle name is actually Lizzie.
Mm-hmm. Right? It could be your cooking alter ego.
Lizzie Bourdain.
Yeah, you cut everything with a big giant axe.
I'm going to change it from Getting Baked with Heidi to Lizzie Bourdain.
You're cutting your fruits and vegetables with a giant axe instead of a knife.
I mean, realistically, my cooking channel is just things that I've never cooked before that I'm attempting with a kitchen that is not a professional kitchen. So...
there's a
Lizzie Bourdain might work.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad I could help you out with that.
Well, thanks a lot, sir, and/or madam.
Okay.
But do you know how I'm like fascinated with serial killers, and like you can mention anything, and I'm like, did you know? It all started because of Belle Gunness, but also Lizzie Bourdain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would she be considered a serial killer? No, right?
No, she would be, I think, a spree killer.
Because she only killed her family members.
Right. Or I was thinking either a spree killer, or she would be something like a family annihilator.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. Anyway,
so let's get back to
she
Re-Animator.
has a song. They both had a song that kids would sing kind of tauntingly, like Ring Around the Rosie was about the plague or whatever the hell.
Was it? I don't know.
But they Lizzie Borden had one, and so did Belle Gunness.
Gotcha.
Anyway.
Cool.
I need a theme song is what I'm saying.
Well, that's a good little segue back into this movie. Theme song. This movie had a very cool theme, which is very reminiscent of Psycho. And
that was intentional.
Yeah. Right. A lot of people, I guess, hate on that, saying that he kind of stole the idea.
My understanding was that the composer for the Psycho theme song, was the same guy who did that, was my understanding, but I could be wrong.
Oh, I don't think it's the same guy. But the guy who did the theme for Re-Animator wanted to, from the little bit of research that I looked into, he calls it paying homage, but he also wanted it to be clearly evident that he was sort of like borrowing from a very significantly known theme. Okay. Now, if he says that, and I believe him as a musician, I don't consider that to be stealing art or whatever. Jimi Hendrix played All Along the Watchtower, and in some ways way better than Bob Dylan did. A lot of artists that, especially back then, that's how you got to better your craft. You'd learn other songs, or you'd learn how to do other techniques from other artists. And so, this guy, he says that he was paying homage to Psycho. I think it was a pretty cool theme song. It took me a little bit back to like maybe the 60s instead of the 80s, because it's kind of like, almost Pink Panther-ish in a way, where it's like you want to see, the title credits were pretty, was that what they call them? The opening credits were really cool. A lot of colors and a lot of different images. Like, I think that guy also went on to be somebody famous too, who did a lot of significant opening scenes for movies. But I think, yeah. The music in it was pretty cool. Yeah. The music was pretty cool. And you're right. Like, this movie is definitely like 80s, like super fucking 80s. But the song was definitely takes you back to Hitchcock. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That said, the H.P. Lovecraft story is not exactly, of course, what's on here, because this is what you're talking about, early 1900s. This is 85 years later. Right. And there are a lot of elements that are different. So the idea is there, but the storyline and the character development, I guess, they're just completely different. Yeah. Now, this movie really just basically says, we're going to open this thing up with a bang, and we're going to let you know that we're going to go to some pretty crazy places. We're going to go elbow deep in this bitch. Elbow deep, yeah. Yeah, right? Because right away, we start off with... basically a guy dying. Yeah, well, they're in like a foreign country at some sort of university. They're in Germany in a medical school, and the police are called because there's some commotion going inside the doctor's laboratory. Right. Sorry, laboratory. And we find out that either Herbert West or the doctor himself has killed. Yeah, we come in and they're basically, the West is looking at the doctor on the ground who's like having seizures and just going crazy. And he gets up and his eyeballs burst out of his skull, which is pretty awesome. And it basically sets the tone of like, hey, we're coming at you pretty, hard in this movie. Like, they're not going to ease into it. Get your fucking mop. It's going to get wet. Yeah. All right, wait. First of all, it was directed by Stuart Gordon. Okay, and it stars Jeffrey Combs, Bruce Abbott, and motherfucking Barbara Crampton. Crampton. That's what I said. Yeah, I know. Who, by the way, it's in a lot of movies we've seen. Specifically, your Chopping Mall. My Chopping Mall. But, I didn't know that, but I know that now after we watched this documentary. Oh, yeah. But she didn't want to do any nudity because she thought there's no reason for it, which explains her character in this movie at all. Wow. Which explains her character in Chopping Mall, right? Because she's a prude. Oh, is she the prude in Chopping Mall? Yes. Does she not get naked at all? I don't remember. I don't remember either. But anyway, she definitely is not a prude in this movie. Sorry, go ahead. She later realized that the only way to be able to continue acting would be to resort to some nude scenes, but specifically because it was what was required in 80s horror movies, right? Yeah, somewhat. Now, I want to say that Yeah, I want to say that in the nicest way possible. I mean, definitely, I'm sure there was some people that were just kind of taking advantage of the situation and said, you know what, this would be an easy way to get some girls naked. But I don't know. I mean, like, it were different times back then. I mean, we were kids, so it's not like we were the one calling the shots. These are our elders, our
Speak
parents.
for yourself.
And all that.
Like, I was able to watch whatever I wanted to watch.
That's not what I mean. We weren't the ones directing
we weren't
these
allowed
movies,
to watch We weren't allowed to watch TV, but we did get $1.50 each to go rent movies at the video rental place. And the only ones that we could afford at that time were like older movies. So we watched all the horror movies we could.
Yeah. Well,
while trying to take a peek behind the curtain.
This is a movie that is basically not hiding anything, so they're not like disguising it as like a friendly, kid-friendly movie and then basically saying, whoops, by the way, we just went too far. I think some of the young kids nowadays would look at some of the stuff happening in this movie as a little bit too over the top, because, you know, there's a shift happening right now where, again, the 80s, we were pretty crazy, you know, 90s as well. And now things are starting to get a little bit toned down because people
are trying conservative again?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I think if you did a poll, like some of the younger kids look at these, you know, again, like the over usage of gratuitous nudity and blood and gore and all that in these older 80 films is like just creepy old men getting women to do whatever the fuck they want them to do. Well, I kind of
understand that. Like, my daughter will tell us to turn the music down.
Yeah, that's a little weird. We were like, if you can't hear it, you're too old. Crank that shit up to 11.
So it wasn't Germany. It was actually Switzerland.
Switzerland.
It was the University of Zurich.
Oh, okay.
The Institute of Medicine. Oh, speaking of institute, in Lovecraft's story, the hospital that they mentioned is Arkham.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Batman reference.
So the nurse is it's accusing West and saying, you killed him. And Herbert West says, I gave him life.
Yeah. That's where it's kind of a little Frankenstein-ish. But it's cool. I guess he was a theater actor. This guy did a really good job.
Yeah, he did great. You believed everything that came out of his mouth. Everything. Yeah. Like, you're like, I never want to see this white boy ever.
He
fucking
has
white people.
A way of pulling off. Yeah, he basically gets people to believe whatever the fuck he tells them. And he has an excuse for everything right away. He doesn't even have to think about it. It's so natural to him. It's just like,
yeah,
what are you talking about?
It's weird.
So we go from
that back to the United States to Massachusetts.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was in Massachusetts.
And it's a teaching hospital. And
Massachusetts.
And there's a guy, Dan. And Dan is a doctor, and he's a medical student. So He's learning the craft, so to speak. But he's we catch him unsuccessfully trying to resuscitate somebody who is flatlining. Like, he's doing so many chest compressions to this person.
Yeah, he doesn't want to give up.
But he has to, and they like almost literally pull him off of the person.
Yeah, he's like, no, it just hasn't kicked in yet. Just keep trying. And the other nurses or doctors like, he's dead. Leave him alone. Yeah.
So then we meet his girlfriend, who is Meg, and she is also the daughter of this dean.
Right. I think
Halsey, right?
Yeah. They say
not the singer.
His fiance, which I saw in a couple of the reviews I saw, they say that she's the fiance, but that's true.
Well, I think they say she's the fiance because when they were getting out of bed later, like in one of the scenes after they'd, made Whoopi, she said, I'll definitely marry you after you become a doctor.
Yeah.
So it's like they have a committed relationship, but there is no ring on her finger.
Right. Okay. But the dean also doesn't seem to really know too much about their relationship.
Right. He knows that they're dating. Now the dean is very, very protective of his daughter. Like, she's not even allowed to spend they're in college. They're older, and she's not even allowed to spend the night at her boyfriend's house.
Yeah.
Also, we meet
the professor?
The professor, who is a doctor at the hospital.
Yeah, I think his name Hill or something like
Hill.
that.
Yeah, Dr. Hill.
The creep.
He is fucking creepy as shit. He is as old as the dean, an older gentleman, probably in his 50s, with a really, really bad, man wig.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I don't think that was they had to put a wig on him for some crazy reason for continuity or whatever.
Well, they had to put a wig on him so that it would match it later on in the scene.
Right,
and they
yeah,
have to
something. But so they were, it's not really like,
But anyway, it makes him look old as shit. Anyway, during an interaction or an exchange with, what's her name? With Meg, we see that he's kind of creepy. And
yeah.
He even makes a toast to, so in one scene, Dan goes to pick up Meg for a study date. And he goes and they're having Meg, Dr. Hill, and the dean are having dinner together. And when Dan shows up, Hill is like, do you think this is a good idea? Like trying not to let her go out with her boyfriend. Right,
yeah. He's like hitting on her right in front of her dad and everything.
Yeah, and he says a toast to Meg or for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you think, I feel like Christopher Lee might have been able to pull off this Hill character. He kind of reminds me of his stature. Maybe not as the face, but...
No, I think his grandiose appearance
like
reminds me of Lee in Wicker Man.
Yeah. I got a little bit of a vibe like that from him. So
then we meet again Dr. West.
Right.
Herbert West. And he is now come to Massachusetts to this school to continue studying medicine now that his old mentor has, died because the reanimation didn't work.
You know what the old mentor's name was? Hans Gruber, Dr. Gruber.
Isn't that Die Hard?
The villain in Die Hard.
I wonder if there's like a folklore regarding a name Hans Gruber.
I don't know, but I didn't really catch it at first, but then later on I was like, wait, Hans Gruber.
Okay, so immediately West and Hill do not get along because West accuses Dr. Hill, accuses him of stealing Hans Gruber's research.
Yeah, he calls him a fraud.
He calls him a fraud even, and Dr. Hill doesn't like him because he's insubordinate.
Right, he plagiarizes or something like that. Yeah, he's basically saying he doesn't know. And then there's this whole thing about the 6 to 12 minute.
Yeah, so
brain life or whatever.
Yeah, so according to the movie, there's not been anyone able to reanimate or resuscitate anybody who has been dead for more than 6 minutes.
Right.
And West says that he has done it. That because Hans Gruber has done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's a little cocky motherfucker. He's like...
Yeah, but you kind of like it.
Yeah, he just has all the, like... I mean, he doesn't seem like he's a student necessarily, He comes in there like as if he is another teacher or something like that, He's like...
It's funny because at one point they're observing like the...
how to take out a brain.
Take out a brain. And... Dr. Hill says something about nobody has been able to do it past this time. And West gets a pencil out of his pocket and then just goes...
breaks it.
Crack. And then the doctor's like, what the hell? And then he continues talking and he pulls out another pencil and cracks it. And he's like, you get yourself a pen.
Right, yeah.
But it has like... It's kind of like a horror comedy because it has a lot of funny elements in it.
So many horror movies to me are comedies. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I really... enjoy that a lot sometimes. I like to laugh and I like spooky and crazy and gory and shit. So it works perfect in some cases for me.
So West and Dan become friends because, well, not friends, acquaintances, because West rents out a spare room from Dan.
Dan Kane.
Dan Kane. Yes, Dan Kane. Not Dean Kane. Yeah. Dan Kane.
His idiot brother who ended up going to med school instead of becoming an actor.
What is it? Dave. What is it? Dave Franco?
Dave Franco? Oh, yeah. So yeah, he becomes his roommate. Basically, he makes him an offer. He says,
pays him cash.
Yeah, he falls in love with the basement as soon as he sees it. He looks all creepy like a mad scientist in that scene. He's like, yes, this will be perfect.
Yeah, and you kind of almost are like, is he on ecstasy right now? Because he's almost like, yes.
He's so emotionally into it.
But that's funny. What I'm saying. Like, you believe everything he says. Like, he can sell a timeshare.
Sure, probably can. He does look like he could play that role very easily. So is Meg in the scene where this happens as well too?
Yes, well, because
right?
this is so after Dan goes to pick up Meg during that creepy toast, they go back to his house to study, and that's when Meg's a little like uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, "No, I'm just gonna go." And then she goes to open the door. Wait, is it that part? No, I'm wrong. After the lovemaking session, before the dinner and everything.
Okay.
He's naked chasing her. Right? And they're like doing fun couple stuff. She opens the door and there's West. And Dan is naked.
Yeah,
right?
he's just like right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's aware that that's happening. And in fact, when she's giving him, when Dan is giving West a tour, she tells him, "You need some time to think about this, don't you?"
Yeah.
And he didn't get the hint because, money was right there.
Right there.
A big roll of cash.
Cash talks,
Cash moves everything around me.
Cream, hit the money.
Dollar bills, yeah.
Yeah. So basically now, sorry. So now he wants to get all his laboratory stuff in there and get going. I think they come back home later on and the cat's missing.
Yeah, okay, so
after
that creepy toast part is when they do come home and she's feeling uneasy and then she's like, "You know what? Where's the cat?"
Right.
And that's because they have a cat and she finds him inside West's bedroom.
Refrigerator.
In his bedroom.
Yeah.
And he, of course, has a lie. He's like, "Look, he was dead. I meant to show you later.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? Leave your note? Cat's dead. Let's talk later."
Right. Yeah, right. He's also so accusatory, like, "Get out of my room." Like,
I thought I was renting a private room, Dan.
But when you're a renter, you still don't own the place. I know everybody wants to act like they do.
Well, when you're a renter, they need to give you 24 hours notice.
Yeah, but you don't
They had
own
an informal
the place,
agreement.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like, I'm a renter and I would probably hate it too. But in reality, we don't own the place. It's not ours. It's not our actual property. So, and who knows if it was a dorm, right? Or no, it wasn't a dorm. It was a house. Yeah. Right, yeah. So I'm just saying he was so like accusing them right off the bat. Like, what are you doing in my room? Get out of there, whatever.
Right. So you know what? Back at the creepy toast scene, Hill does mention that Dan has taken up with West and that's ill-advised. Mm-hmm. So he already doesn't like him. He doesn't like Dan anyway because he's got his woman, all this other crap. So during the scene, Meg understandably freaks the fuck out.
Of course, her cat's in her fucking refrigerator.
It's not her cat. It's Dan's cat.
Oh, it was Dan's cat?
It's at Dan's house. Oh. She doesn't take her cat wherever she goes.
I feel like that she had more of an attachment to the cat than Dan did, though.
But it was at his house.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't take my cat everywhere I go. No. I'm like, don't put it in a purse and be like, let's go.
That's true. But didn't you get that it felt like she was more concerned about where the cat was? And even when she sees it, she freaked out? I feel like
she was kind of uncomfortable with something. And she used the cat not being there as an excuse to not have whatever conversation they were about to have.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because when Dan sees it, he's not like, "What? You killed my fucking cat." He's just like,
okay, but, hold on. I'm forming a thought. He is in a difficult predicament because he has to satiate Meg and keep her nice and calm, but also make sure that he ensures West has a very is very understanding of how severe this is.
Yeah.
So he's kind of having to balance.
Yeah, he's trying to keep the peace, really. Although his cat is or whoever's cat it is dead in the refrigerator, which is strange. Cat. Sure, fine.
Well, it's in his. I give up.
I'm just saying that.
Pick me up when you're done.
They're there with a dead animal. It's fucked up. He has a really good excuse. Like you said, he makes it sound like, "What? That's stupid for me to like leave a note or something like that."
Cat dead. Talk soon.
So they how does the scene? Well, I don't know.
So Meg leaves, but then later that night, Dan is asleep and he's awakened by this gnarly screeching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is this sound? And he follows it with a baseball bat, mind you, because he's like, what the fuck is this sound?
Yeah, well, it's smart.
He follows it, follows the sound and finds it in the basement. And what does he find in the basement? West's laboratory and his cat.
Yeah. Now, this is the greatest little cat fight scene. The cat, you can clearly see it's like a doll attached to his back, but this guy, what's his name? Combs? West? Yeah. He sells it.
Yeah. There's a cat on his back, and he is wrestling it, trying to get it off of him.
Flings himself over the table, knocks all the glass over.
Yeah, and the cat gets off of him and is hiding, and they're trying to find it. And then suddenly it attacks Dan, and Dan
so good.
Flings it onto the wall, and it dies.
Splat.
Oh my God.
Splat. It's fucking great.
Trigger alert. There's a dead cat in this movie.
But it's not, yeah. It's
but it's very obviously like not a cat.
Yes.
And then
it's hilarious.
They're like, understandably, Dan's like, what the fuck, bro? And like Wes tells him, I reanimated him. Look, here's what it is. And he goes, I don't believe you. Maybe he wasn't really dead. And he goes, will you agree he's dead now? And because the cat's just there, all broken. He's like, yes, he's dead. Yeah. He injects him with the reagents. Now, the reagent is this gnarly, bright green, neon, Toxic Avenger kind of green.
Yeah, very 80s neon green.
Yeah.
It basically is the stuff that's inside glow sticks when you crack the glow stick open.
Yeah,
That's exactly what
it's
it
like
is.
iridescent. Yeah. That's what it's called. And he injects the cat with it, and the cat comes back to life. Mind you, every bone in his body is broken. So he only moves his head, and you hear the...
Yeah, he says this cool line where he's like, I wouldn't expect him to start dancing around or something like that. He does have a broken spinal column or something. But yeah, so now Dan witnesses the fact that the cat does come back to life. And now he's a believer. He's like, holy shit, West knows what he's doing. He's able to bring the dead to life.
Right. But now, the most nosiest girlfriend of all time...
Oh, right. She comes back.
...randomly walks into the basement. One, why is she going into her man's house without being invited, without knocking, without checking if it was okay? And in the middle of the night, because they were all asleep by then.
She maybe knocked and didn't hear anybody because they were downstairs in the basement.
But also, it's the middle of the night. He was already asleep. And she has that strict father, so what was she doing?
Hey.
I'm sure she was trying to get some strange, but still, it's like, it's like, dude, like...
Well, her reaction again at that time, I felt like it was her cat, or she at least loved the cat more than Dan did, because she sees it.
Or she had emotion, or the woman is represented as the more emotional. Like you told me the other day, I was like, why did you do that? And you're like, why are you getting hysterical? And I'm like, what? So sometimes women, when we have feelings, men interpret them as being extra. Sorry, dude, I'm allowed to have feelings. I'm finally touching on feelings. My sister said 5 years ago, I'm finally a girl. So let me have my feelings, man.
All right.
Fuck you up.
Bring it on. So she
was
just
out. Emotional.
She freaks out because she sees this dead cat squirming around. She doesn't even... I guess so, yeah. I mean,
okay, Josie's my cat, right?
No, yeah. If I walked in and all of a sudden I saw a half-broken, dead-looking cat, screaming in pain,
you'd freak out.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, I wouldn't freak out, but I'd be like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Put it out of its misery or get it some help, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't suspect that it was being brought back to life at that point in time. You would just think these guys are torturing an animal.
I mean, they are.
Well, sort of. They're trying to...
Because every time that anything's being brought back in this movie, they're screaming in pain.
Well...
Because imagine, okay, let's say someone in this movie had a heart attack. Right? And your heart hurts when you have a heart attack, right?
Yeah.
And then you die, but you're brought back to life. Wouldn't your heart still be hurting because it's still not working?
That's exactly true, but there's an instance later on in this movie, and we'll get to it, that I feel like sort of disproves... Well, it doesn't disprove it, but it contradicts it. Because he cuts off the dude's head, and it's not
Shut up.
Yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. All right, so...
Nobody's ever seen this movie before.
So we know now that West has been able to do what he claims he can do, And
right. So Dan goes to the dean and is like, hey, this is what West is doing. And I don't think it was in a I'm snitching on him kind of way. I think it was more of a, oh my God, let's get behind this research.
Yeah. And funny thing is, the dean is very, very
like, shut your mouth, get out of here.
Yeah, he doesn't like him. He doesn't like him because he's already, basically dating or engaged to his daughter. But aside from all that, he doesn't even want to hear. He's like, it's almost like you're I don't know, it's
bothering
like blasphemy to him. Well, yeah, he's like, what? No, that never. And he just writes it off right away, like, nope.
So he says he expels West. He suspends Kane, and there you go. The poor guy's future is down the drain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then so many he's in this movie. Dan Kane tells Halsey, don't take this out on Meg.
Right, because she really didn't have anything to do with it. He really didn't even have anything to do with it. He's sort of an innocent bystander that got mixed up with this crazy wacko mad scientist, and now he's got to deal with the fucking shit drama that comes along with it.
Right. So it's just so fucking crazy, because then they have this, West and Kane have this brilliant idea. Let's just try to make sure the reagent works, show them, and we'll get reinstated.
Yeah, right.
No problem. Disney magic, right?
So they decide to sneak West in as a corpse into the morgue, wherever, and so they could find a decent body to work on. And he even puts the toe tag on his toe. And what I found what was the funniest thing in this scene is that he brought his shoes that weren't just like, he could have just brought some like sneakers or something you could put on real fast,
shoes, and he had
or some
socks.
Scrubs or whatever. But no, he had dress shoes and socks, and he sits there and has to lace them up and tie them properly.
Well, I think it adds to the scene for sure. Like, that's something that Combs asked the director to include.
The shoes?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little over the top.
And I think it helped for sure.
It's sort of like when people run around in shoes and jump on the bed in movies. You're like, why do you have your shoes?
But it makes sense. If you're going to be inside this nasty ass morgue, would you want to do it barefoot?
Not barefoot, but I mean, wouldn't you wear some? I guess his only attire was that.
Yeah, I say maybe he only had those shoes.
Yeah.
Or similar shoes. Like maybe those are the comfortable ones of his shoes that he owns.
Sure.
So he's a medical student in the 80s. They were preppy? I don't know.
Well, he seemed like whatever. He could probably, I don't know. It just was like funny to me. It was like excessive, putting on some dress shoes, whatever.
Yeah. Well, so it actually, I don't know. It was a really good moment, but it made so much sense to me. Like, you don't go into the gym shower without shoes on.
Yeah. It just seemed like a scene that, and you're saying now that the actor wanted it in there, but it seems like a scene that would have been cut out for, it doesn't really add anything, I guess, or whatever. So it seems like in the writing process, they wouldn't go into that much detail. Like, he brought his shoes in and then had to tie both his laces and put his shoes on. Like, I feel like it would have just been like, he's in, quick cut scene, and he's got shoes on, like no explanation needed. But
or even include anything about the shoes.
Yeah.
But so what they're doing in there is that they're looking for
a fresh body,
or a body fresh enough to really ensure that the reagent works. Mm-hmm. And so there's a bunch of dead bodies in the morgue, as you know, and so there's none of them are exactly right. One of them is a burn victim. One of them was already rotting. One of them was whatever.
Yeah.
So hit by a truck or something. So there are a lot of different ones, and they finally find one.
Yep, they find one.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double.
Right. I thought he did kind of look like Arnold a little bit here and there.
you actually said when we were watching it, what is that, Lou Ferrigno?
Yeah. I mean, he plays those type of roles sometimes, so I thought it could be him. But yeah, Arnold's stunt double, and that's funny. But
he apparently dropped dead of a heart attack, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
But he when he gets reanimated, he goes berserker, and he like starts smashing people around and throwing shit. And then in the meantime, Halsey and Meg are at the hospital looking for Kane to make sure that he's not at the hospital.
Yeah,
they snuck in.
They figured it out that they've snuck in, so they're going to the hospital to try to catch them and whatever. And there's this really lazy security guard. I mean, I like his character. I'm not saying that. It's just they played him off as like, I'm going to go get my coffee now. And
reading
hey.
pornos.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not really paying too much attention. He's just sort of there getting his paycheck. But to be fair,
all he's doing is guarding the entrance of the morgue.
The morgue, where there's dead people, right?
Yeah, and so he doesn't know anything is going on because as soon as Kane gets there and talks his way into the morgue with this dead body, which is something that he normally does, he regularly wheels people into there.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like out of character for this person. He's like, well, if you're going to be here, I'm going to go get a coffee. I'm going to take a break, whatever. And he leaves. So Halsey, the dean and Meg are arguing upstairs. She's saying that she loves him. And he goes, you stay the fuck here. I'm going to go take care of this shit. And so he makes his way down to the morgue. He hears so there's the morgue, and then inside the morgue there's a refrigerator.
It's like a big refrigerator door,
and that's where Lou Ferrigno is.
So
that's where all the commotion is going. So he goes into the morgue, he hears that, and he presses his ear kind of on the door because he can't open it. And
meanwhile, the guy's going crazy in there. They're trying to hold him back and suppress him.
Pushes the door.
Yeah.
And it crashes on top of
right
the dean.
Right on top of the dean.
And the dean ends up getting thrown around. And the security guard comes back and he's like, fuck this shit. And leaves.
And so who saves the day? But none other than West with like a bone grinding, like buzzsaw type thing or whatever.
I was thinking he was maybe going to like go the easy route and maybe get the back of the brain stem, and kind of like make him unable to use his limbs. But no, he takes the bone saw and jams it into his torso.
Right through the chest, yeah.
And it's like, why?
He goes from the back and it pops out the front of his chest.
And you're thinking, that's like, if you're going to kill somebody in some kind of self-defense, wouldn't you be like water and use the path of least resistance?
Well, this was maybe, but because this is a very over-the-top horror movie, they wanted to go, like I said, eyeballs bursting out in the opening scene. Now you've got a saw cutting all the way through the chest of this, guy.
Meanwhile, the dean has taken quite a beating. In fact, he's died.
Oh, right, yeah. He's fucked up. Like, he got crushed underneath that giant door.
While West was digging the tool into him, the dean was getting smashed against the wall by the body, by Arnold. Arnold Ferrigno. So he's dead. But West immediately is like, maybe he was dead for too long and that's why he had this reaction. We need a fresher body. Guess what? The dean, as fresh as you can possibly get. Go get the reagent.
Yeah.
And they inject him. And he comes back to life.
Yeah. West is so like, I'm not going to be swayed from my path. He's like on it. He's like, yeah, fuck that shit. He's not like shocked even that he had to like drill this power tool through this guy's chest. He's like, okay, go get it. Let's inject this guy. Well, you have to
imagine if he's a researcher, especially like in the research before PETA, right? It's like you have to go through all of these animals and you kind of get desensitized.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can imagine. It's like my mom recently, started this chicken farm, like chicken ranch or whatever the hell outside of LA. And she had to get a whole bunch of baby chicks knowing that a lot of them weren't going to make it. You just kind of have to adjust yourself. Otherwise, you're going to get too emotionally attached.
Yeah.
So I imagine they had to do something very similar. So another dead body was just another dead body. And this guy, he was dead anyway. So he didn't know him.
He was
already dead.
They were gifting him life, if anything,
Yeah.
So now they want to try it out on the dean, and he injects him. And
he comes back to life, but he's also violent.
Yeah. They're all violent.
He's very violent. Like I said, if you come back to life, you're still dealing with the same physical traumas that caused your death.
Right, sure. So he's probably having like, I don't know, his body hurts from being crushed underneath a giant freezer door.
Covered in broken, like he's probably shattered bones in some places.
The one thing I think that, I don't know if it goes unrecognized or not, but like the dean's character is playing almost two different roles, you know? And he's
because what happens is the security guard had called the police. No, wait. Yeah, the security guard called the police. And West's explanation, immediate. I don't know what happened. The dean went crazy. He did all of this mess.
Yeah,
we tried to stop him. I don't know what happened.
It's like he had the lie all ready to go, like, before it even happened or whatever.
Like, oh my God. If somebody tries to, like, if I try to lie to somebody, I'm like, so I don't know. Like, it doesn't come naturally to people. I mean, it doesn't come naturally to me. So I find it hard. I would find it hard to be able to make up a story on the spot like that.
Right. So now does the dean get restrained or whatever?
Yeah. So he gets put into a straitjacket.
Straitjacket, yeah.
And
okay.
Of all people, Dr. Hill is tasked with figuring out what's going on with him because they think that he had some kind of neurological, like, issue. Mm-hmm. And so
Meg also comes across her father after this.
Yeah, because she, being nosy as she is, had come down to the morgue, saw that the father had gone berserk as well. Yeah.
Can't imagine. She's probably like, what the fuck is happening in my life?
I think she's also like, holy shit, why is he acting like this? He must have been reanimated. That's why she's mad at Dan.
Yeah. But do you think she believes that he was reanimated and brought back to life?
I think she might have to suspect it, which is why she was so cold to him. Because from this moment on, she's no longer warm and loving to Kane.
Yeah.
She is cold. She is distant. And actually, she is with Dr. Hill in his office where they have a one-way mirror?
Yeah, okay.
Or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And they're observing her dad in a padded cell. And in the straitjacket, kind of just being nuts.
And he uses this time to get his creep on again and say, if you need anything, now that you're alone.
I'm here for you.
So sick.
But he also asks for her signature so he can perform exploratory surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which means that so what happens is he ends up lobotomizing him.
Yeah, yeah.
And making him not only more docile, but also makes him his slave.
A bottle in front of me or a frontal lobotomy?
So then what happened was...
I think I'll take a bottle in front of me.
I was also ignoring that joke the 2 times you said it while we were watching the
movie. So. Somebody out there will find it funny. Well...
That's our people.
We also, We also forgot to mention that the dean basically just says, now I'm going to steal your research to West.
Okay,
right?
not yet. So,
not yet.
So all of that is happening. Dan is like, what the fuck? But all the whole time, West is still doing his research. He's back in the basement. He's figuring out what went wrong. That's when Hill comes down and he's like, I know he's dead. He must have, because he had to do the lobotomy. He knows something happened. He's like, I know he's dead. I want your research. I want it all.
Yep.
And that's when they get into a tussle.
Well, fucking again, West has no second guessing. He just goes right into
decapitates him.
Yep. Remember we were trying to keep track of all the good decapitation scenes in these movies? So this is a pretty good one. To be honest with you.
Did he do it with a shovel?
He smashes him in the head with the shovel, and as he falls down and turns over, Wes jams the shovel right in his throat and basically chops the whole head off. It was great. Which... Is this too early to say what I was going to say?
No, everybody's already seen the movie.
So, that's why I was going to say, if the whole thing about them coming back and still feeling the pain, then when he has the head in the tray and the body's over there and he reanimates them both, shouldn't the head be screaming in pain or whatever?
But you have to remember, yes, I guess so. But also you have to remember, Wes has been working on improving his reagents.
Sure, yeah. So he must have made some adjustments or whatever.
I'm just saying. He could have.
Yeah. Well, he is
a mad scientist.
So he basically injects the head first, and then for some crazy reason he decides to inject the body, and they both separately reanimate.
But the head comes back to life. He doesn't realize that the body has come back to life. The body knocks him over the head.
Oh yeah.
Steals the research. Takes the head and goes back to his office. He skedaddles.
This was, I think, the scene where you can actually sort of see in the corner
the guy
there's
pushing it in a stick.
the headless body, and there seems to be some sort of a stick or some sort of a support, and it's like they're pushing it forward or whatever. I don't know. I happen to notice that very easily. But great decapitation scene.
Absolutely.
Sure.
It was nice and juicy.
Yeah.
And then Dan Kane comes back and he finds West unconscious, and he's like, damn it, he took my research and all my reagents except for what I have upstairs.
Yeah.
How fucking convenient.
Yep, of course. He would have a secret stash somewhere.
I mean, you keep your money in your socks,
Yeah.
or in your bra if you're a girl.
Sort of like Ninja Turtles 2 with The Secret of the Ooze. And they're like,
yeah,
he's got the last bottle of ooze. And then he still had a tiny little vial in his belt.
That was my favorite Ninja Turtle as a kid, because it was like the more fun, and let me hit you with the yo-yo, right?
Well,
like, so that as a kid, that was mine. But now as an adult, it's the dark one, the first one.
The thing is, the first one, people don't remember that it got a lot of shit for being too dark because it was a kid's cartoon. Even though the cartoon was dark and it was a little bit more closer to the cartoon. I mean, not cartoon. It was closer to the comic book. But because Ninja Turtles was such a kid-friendly cartoon, they had to, like, if you notice in Ninja Turtles 2, they never use the weapons at all. There's no real, like... it's, you know,
what says
violence.
Kid-friendly better than Vanilla Ice?
Yeah. But I did enjoy that one a lot. If you search the
we'll put the link in the... Okay,
no, we
y'all,
won't.
You're welcome for this in advance.
If you search the internet
we're gonna
long
put
and
the
hard,
link.
you might find me covering the Ninja Rap in a Ninja Turtle costume.
With his band.
With my band, DTI.
I'll post the link in the show notes.
I don't think you can, though. I think I might have taken that down or something.
I know where it is. I know where it lives on the internet.
You know, yeah, somewhere it probably lives. But yeah, I never thought I would cover Vanilla Ice in my lifetime, but we did.
You might be the only person ever to do it.
Well, we did it really good, too, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a great video. Actually, can we include it at the end of this video?
Sure, whatever. Cool.
You're welcome.
Has nothing to do with Re-Animator, but we'll show you the Ninja Rap video I did if you watch all the way through to the end.
I mean, or whatever.
Yeah. So now he has the secret stash of his last little bit of reagent. Where is it? Upstairs, maybe in his refrigerator or something like that?
I don't know. I don't know where specifically he put his reagent, Stefan.
So he's going to go get his stuff. And again, in the meantime... the head and the body are going back to their laboratory, right? Okay, so the head and the body
have gone not just to the laboratory. They have also gone to the morgue.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. No, hold on.
What were you going to talk about?
Hold on. He's gone to the morgue. In the meantime, Dan and Meg have made up, and he's admitted to her that, yes, he's reanimated, and she has somewhat forgiven him because she loves him, and also she's fucking alone in the world right now. And they go, and she wants to try to find him, whatever. But while she's looking at her dad, Dan is looking through the files, and there is a file.
Oh, right,
in Hill's, like, filing cabinet that just says Meg, and it has newspaper clippings, a lock of fucking hair, pictures, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, he's a creep, man. He's a creep. He wants Meg. But I was about to say how funny it is that he took, like, this headless thing has to get into the morgue. So the head is put in a bag, and then the headless part of the body is wearing. Yeah, so
it's a little model where
head,
where it's half a face. But the other half, it's like the inner workings of the mind.
So
kind of like you would see at the doctor's office.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny. He's got the guy at the thing is like, "Is that you, Dr. Hill?" And like,
he's like, "Who else would it be?"
Yeah, who else would it be? And
but so, why didn't he put his head on it instead of the fake head? Why didn't he use his real head?
Maybe it would have fallen off. I don't know, right? Somehow he got the other head to stay on, but
like,
I think it's just comedic.
I don't know. Like,
I think it's comedic.
He took his head inside of a bag.
Yeah.
Which is funny. But how did he get in through the rest of the hospital? I guess the morgue probably has direct to the parking lot, kind of.
Yeah.
Anyway,
who knows?
Anyway, so now at some point we realize that Dr. Hill is able to control Halsey. Because of the lobotomy, he has been able to teach him how to follow command, right? Mm-hmm. He made Halsey kidnap his own daughter and bring her into the morgue.
Yes, and this is where the movie starts to get really weird and twisted.
Kind of really disgusting.
Yeah, kind of really disgusting.
So Hill who's half in a pan, half a walking body, has the doctor.
Who's the dad?
The dean, put the daughter onto the autopsy table, strap her in, and disrobe her.
Strip her naked. I mean, like, that's pretty crazy. Obviously, the dad is not thinking for himself.
What's worse is that gets worse. Horny ass Dr. Hillhead has the bodies. I'm gonna let you say it. Go ahead. I'm struggling here. Has the body fondling her breasts. He's getting aroused just as a head, and he starts making out with her. Uh-huh. He starts face humping her, and then they go for it. Gives her head.
Well, they go for it.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they go for it. They I think this scene will probably...
I've seen a lot of twisted shit, but yeah, this one sort of takes the cake. What the fuck? And the Dr. Hill's real wife, like, divorced him for this scene.
Yeah, she's like, what the fuck? This is what you've been doing? How do you justify that? You're like, I'm doing acting. This is what I'm acting.
I'm doing acting. Yes.
So the headless body takes the head and tries to...
And puts it in, and you see it between her legs.
Yeah, and she's fully nude. Like, you see bush and everything in this.
And I like to think that somebody walked... Who was... the guys walked in... No, wait. I like to think that West walked in before he touched her with his tongue. But I don't know.
I think that's what I'm saying.
She doesn't ever... I don't know. But she wakes up to him making out with her, and then she's like pushing him away, and that's when so she's awake when he's doing this.
Yeah, I think that for sake of the movie being able to get away with what they did, I don't think he actually made contact. I think he got just that close, and that's when there was some interruption.
And so West comes in and he's like, I'm very disappointed in you. I didn't think that this is what you would do with your power or something like that.
Yeah. Again, he's so cool and collective with his words and whatever. And he's just like making this doctor feel like he's dumb and stupid and like, you know? Yeah. So now.
But in the meantime, West is distracting Dr. Hill, and Dan's coming in through the back door to, and he releases Meg. And they try to get away. And while they're trying to get away, suddenly Dr. Hill commands all the rest of the bodies in the morgue to rise up.
Yeah, that part was so, like, I don't know, like, how does that work, though? We didn't really get any explanation for that.
So you have to think about it all this time while West and Dan were doing their thing, and then Meg being kidnapped and everything. The doctor has had time to perform the lobotomies on all these other bodies. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are only like 10 other bodies.
But so, like, how...
and on dead bodies, so they don't have to think about proper procedure for lobotomy.
What I was wondering is, did he just time it where he gave everybody the reagent and knew, like, okay, I've got, 10 minutes before it kicks in or whatever. But he can't get them under his
control until he lobotomizes them.
Right. And so that makes sense. But yeah, so they all pop up. Bunch of naked bodies, zombie-like bodies, and they're all starting to attack.
And they start to attack, and it's like gang war.
The movie is just going over the top right now, and this is really part of the fun of it all.
It's like a fucking shit show. And then the dean starts attacking Dan and Meg, and then her voice brings him back to reality, and he has some form of consciousness, and he's like, what the fuck? And he starts protecting her.
Yeah. And so that's sort of like, we weren't sure if that was a possibility, if
we found out now that yes. Wes is getting killed the fuck up, and they're making their getaway, and before he succumbs to all these bodies, he throws his bag over to Dan and is like, my research. Mm-hmm. All he cared about was pushing science along. Mm-hmm. And then They make a break for it.
Dan grabs the bag and they're
Dan grabs the bag. They're going into the elevator. Suddenly, this reanimated corpse grabs Meg by the throat. And before Dan is able to cut the arm off with an axe, he crushes her trachea and she dies.
Yep, she dies.
Meanwhile, Dan goes up into the actual hospital, asks for help. Everybody's like, oh shit, it's Meg. And unable to resuscitate her. She's dead.
But you know what? He realizes he has the reagent. And what does he do? He
injects her. And next thing you know, you hear a scream.
Yeah.
And the movie ends.
One of probably, I would say, the better nicer screams.
Right, so it's not
in
like
horror movies.
It's not like the basic, like, what is it, the Wilhelm scream?
Right, yeah.
It's actually Barbara Crampton screamed all her own screams in this movie.
You could probably sample her scream if you were looking for like a woman screaming for whatever reason. Like how in our intro music we have a scream. I don't know where that one's from, but like maybe we should have used her scream in the beginning. But and the very cool way that they faded out with just keeping the green, like neon green reagent in frame and everything else fades to black. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, I thought it was very fun. It definitely shocked me in some ways where I didn't think I would see certain scenes play out the way they did, like the giving head scene. But I see what they were going for, and they were really trying to push the limits. And I figured that out early on in the movie. It was fun.
You figured... Well, you can draw a direct correlation to how insane the movie's going to go. If you think about, they used a song that was based on Psycho.
Psycho's theme,
and Psycho, when that movie came out, Psycho pushed all the limits.
Like, at the time.
You know, like it was such a different movie, and the end was so mind-blowingly like insane.
Yeah.
So if you can draw that, like, oh shit, this is going to go over the fucking top. This is going to be something fucking crazy.
Yeah. You know, I think the name also, for whatever reason, like even again, we were playing the Slash Cards game, the Re-Animator, like looking back at it now after seeing the movie, I think it makes total sense, but not knowing what it's about. And
you thought it was some guy that drew cartoons?
Well, I don't know. Reanimation. I get it that it has to do with bringing the dead back to life, but it's a name that it's not like.
It's not as obvious. You think?
Yeah, not as obvious. It's not a direct the driller killer or whatever. You know, it's not something like that.
The nail gun massacre.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's about a nail gun.
It's nothing like that where you can tell this is going to be a bloody mess. It's like the Re-Animator. That one, and I guess another one that's on the list maybe called Video Drone. It just doesn't bring horror to me. My brain
you think
from
sci-fi
hearing
maybe.
Right. Well, sci-fi. So something
Video Drone. I mean.
Yeah, Video Drone for sure. But I was maybe say quote unquote a little turned off from wanting to watch the movie originally because I just didn't think that it was going to really...
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I also didn't watch the movie until very recently. Mostly because, growing up in our generation, we go based off of box covers.
Yeah. I wonder what the box cover of this looked like.
I think it was
I'll look it up online.
It was just West with like green like test tubes and stuff.
Right. So, great movie. I think we're at the end, right?
Very different than H.P. Lovecraft's. In H.P. Lovecraft, and this is what I just wanted to touch base on the relationship, the Dan character, it doesn't have does he have a name? I don't think he has a name. The Dan character is terrified of what he has done with West, and it completely fucks him up. But it doesn't keep him from continue doing it. Like, he's only terrified after the fact.
Gotcha.
So I can imagine that if the movie follows along with that part of it, then, I mean, I haven't seen Re-Animator and Beyond or whatever the fuck
the second one's called The Bride of the Re-Animator or something, like Bride of Frankenstein.
Right. So I haven't seen those, so I don't know, but I'm immediately thinking, okay, so Dan's going to be fucked up for the rest of his life. Like, he can't, obviously he's not going to be a doctor ever, but he's also going to be fucked up, right?
Right, yeah.
And then maybe even criminal charges, because he's the only survivor of whatever that shit show was downstairs.
Well, and West is alive too.
You don't know that at the end of this movie. I guess he has to be because of the next movie.
Right, but we don't see it at the end of this movie.
Right, we don't see it at the end of the movie. And then also in the movie, West and Kane, their characters, they specifically have to search for their own dead bodies. And the school has dibs on them. And there's a very interesting couple of lines in the book where they're talking about, okay, well, the school is provided for them by the morgue or whatever. And they said that these two black guys are responsible for supplying bodies when the morgue is out. So you're like, holy shit, like grave robber shit, right?
Yeah.
And then so that's what they do. They end up going to they figure out who's dead, but who, like, under ideal circumstances. So they find a guy who had an accident and he was quickly buried, and they go and they like dig him up, and they dig him up, and they had like this house in the middle of nowhere, and that house in the middle of nowhere, they made that into the lab. And you're talking about like oil burning times, like not electricity, right?
Yeah.
So, they brought him out, they dug him up, put the dirt back, went in, and then they smoothed it out, went into the lab, and they tried to reanimate him. And then he wasn't reanimating. So they went back to work on they were still on the other different part of that lab working on their reagent, and they call it a reagent. Mm-hmm. The reagent, but suddenly they hear this screaming, and they book it because they're terrified. And next thing you know, there are two things that happen. One, they get news the next day that place, that house out in the middle of nowhere, had burned down. And they realize, okay, that makes sense because the oil lamp had fallen during the commotion, right?
Right.
But then they also see or read that the grave looked like somebody had been clawing at it. And they're like, what the fuck? Because they had smoothed it all out.
Right.
And that's how the movie ends. Oh, no. It's a movie. The book. Yeah, the book ends. But no, actually, I'm wrong because they...
Say that again? No, just kidding.
No. Actually, I admit I'm wrong a lot. But they say that West always feels like he's being watched. So in the book, from story one, you think, oh shit, this thing cried out in pain and tried to get back into his grave. And then also knows who created it. So he's watching him, ready to strike at any point in time, which I think, if you're thinking about a storyline that's scary, that's the way to go versus I actively bring people to life and I know what I'm doing and I'm cocky. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just two very similar stories or ideas, but like two completely different ways of approaching it.
Sure.
I appreciate the darkness and how macabre that is. And I appreciate how 80s that is.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, cool. So obviously one that would probably recommend people to watch if they haven't seen it in this obvious 80s horror genre.
Yep.
Definitely, obviously, you know what you're getting into now if you were going to watch it, because it's going to leave you speechless at certain times.
I mean, they probably have already watched it. This movie is very popular, one that's been around. It's a cult favorite.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
I think anytime you watch it, even if you watch it over and over again, you're always going to have a good time with this movie.
This is one of those movies that I would like to watch with people who haven't watched it just to see their reaction.
Absolutely.
You know? Not really give them much of any kind of like warning ahead of time. Just say it does get a little crazy and then just like let it go and see what happens.
Not even say this is the most conservative way to reanimate people.
So
don't watch it with your mother though.
Yeah, don't. It'll might disturb her too much. So it was good.
Yeah. So I mean I can't recommend it enough.
All right. Cool.
So that's gonna do it for us today.
Definitely.
Thanks for coming along on this wild ride.
Yeah, I know. In closing, I think I'm gonna start a new podcast.
Right.
Not that this isn't fun. I want to continue, obviously, doing this with you.
Like a broadcast.
Whatever. I'm going to do something that's a little bit basically, we're going to call it Nice and Toasted, because I like to get nice and toasted. We'll just basically, let the conversation go wherever it goes. And we'll see what happens. I'm hoping to have some friends and some guests on, and we'll just have a little, knock a few back and puff a couple joints or whatever, and then see what happens. So
no cannabis has been killed during the production of this podcast, though it has been smoked.
Yes, absolutely. We'll see where it goes. We'll keep you guys informed on that if you want to follow me. Like I said, it's going to be Nice and Toasted, the podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm actually excited for that.
Cool.
Also, don't forget to check out our merch page. You can see these beauties here. You can shop for them at icecreampodcast.com/shop. And what no, let us know what you thought about this episode or what you thought about Re-Animator. You can email us at hello@icecreampodcast.com.
Yeah, we love the comments, the feedback, subscribe, hit the notifications button, do all that to stay in touch and stay in the loop with everything that we do. Do you know what movie we're watching next, or are we going to keep that?
Basket Case.
Oh, we're going to do Basket Case next. Okay.
Absolutely.
One weird movie into another.
Well,
that's great, though.
If we're thinking about, not letting anybody ever have sex ever again, Basket Case is the movie to continue this journey on.
Cool. Well, can't wait. Can't wait.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that.
I did. I already said it.
I don't listen when you talk.
I know. I got it. All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Over and out for now.
Okay, bye.